This is Mountains at Hand. This video will show you how anybody who has no prior experience can climb the highest peak in Bulgaria without any grueling walkouts and special equipment. Hello everyone, we are at the ski resort of Borovets. This is one of the largest Bulgarian ski resorts. We are interested in it because it is closest to the Musala mountain peak. This is the highest peak in Bulgaria. You might ask, why would you go to Borovets and why would you want to climb Musala? Let's figure it out. Let's say you are visiting Bulgarian coast or skiing there. Why not? This can easily happen. After all, this is wandering country with so many interesting things. It's beautiful and interesting here. And the locals are very welcoming. And so, imagine you have enjoyed your stay in Bulgaria and suddenly might wonder whether you may be missing of something even more exciting. Maybe there is still something else out here. People might tell you that climbing mountains is always the best thing you can ever imagine. But this is for some special people who walk a lot, who do a lot training, and who can go campaign some tents without any comforts. Absolutely not. Many peaks are accessible to ordinary people without any training or tents. I can tell you now about such peaks and how to get there in detail. So, let's figure out the available peaks and choose one of which you can climb without any prior training and in one day. Let's be humble here for the start. Out of all peaks in Bulgaria, we will consider only the highest and those that are not in the border areas. The Stara Mountains range are the closest to the seaside resorts. They are the largest mountains in the country. They are also called the Balkans or Balkans Mountains. These mountains have smooth and flattish peaks. The views from the higher points may not be as spectacular. This is the highest point of these mountains, Plovdiv. From the very top, the panorama may not be the most spectacular, but good views can be found from some of the points on the slopes. The northern slope of Plovdiv is called Paradise Rocks, and it is steep and popular among climbers. Nearby you can find the highest permanent waterfall in Bulgaria and on the entire Balkan Peninsula. Its name is Raisko-Purskalo. Actually, in order to explore these mountains, you don't need to move far away from the seaside resorts. The most extreme eastern part of the Stara system stretched all the way into the sea near the sunny beach. It is Cape Emine. Mount Chorny Vrch is also interesting. It is quite high, 2290 meters. However, the mountain is sloping down with flat top, so the views from the top point are not that spectacular. This mountain is really interesting for those who is visiting Sofia and cannot travel far. The Rhodope mountain range are relatively close to the coastal resorts. Their name comes from the Greek for red. The tobacco used to be cultivated on the lower slopes of the Rhodope, up to 700 meters. Now they are trying to replace it with olive. The ski resort of Pampurova and Chepelari are located here. The highest point of these mountains is Golan Perelik. However, you cannot get on it. It is occupied by the combat units of the Bulgarian army. We'll not consider visiting it. Now to the Rila Mountains and the Pyrion Mountains, the highest in the country. The Pyrion Mountains is higher than the previous mountains. The slopes are steep and the peaks are sharp. These rocks promise some designed panoramic views. Highly popular ski resorts of Bansko and Dobrinishte are located here. The highest mountain of the mountain range is Vihren. At the exit to the road towards the top, you can find the second oldest tree in Bulgaria, Bykushev's pine. Its age is 1300 years. The shortest road to the top starts from the Everest Shelter, and from the upper station of the ski lift from Bansko, this means a road to the top of the 8 kilometers in one direction, with an elevation of 1300 meters. The shorter road starts from Everest Shelter. This gives a road length of 3 kilometers with an elevation of about 1 kilometer. Everest is located in the highest part of the road, which can be reached by car. The area, however, has restricted access, so check before you travel whether you can get there during your trip. Overall, this is an interesting option. You have some choice here. As to Rila mountain range, they are also very high mountains. Here is one of the most popular ski resorts, Borovets, as well as Panichiche and Malovice. The highest point of the country, Musala Peak, is also located here. The easiest way to climb it is from the Borovets resort. The resort itself is located at an altitude of 1,350 meters, and the peak of Musala is 2,925 meters. The most convenient thing for a one-day climb is that a gondola lift goes from Borovets to the Yastrебets ski area, which is located at an altitude of just over 2,300 meters. So, if you want to reach to the top of Musala, you just need to cover only about 600 meters. This allows you to do both the ascent and descent in one day. The usual ascent time is estimated of 3 hours. The descent time is approximately 3 or 2.5 hours. The distance from the top of the gondola lift to the summit is 8 to 9 kilometers. So, of all the options, the Vyhrin and Musala mountains are clearly in the lead. Vyhrin, of course, is wonderful, and the views from there are stunning. However, the road to it is higher than 1,000 to 1,300 meters. For untrained travelers, such an elevation can be difficult. Also, it is necessary to assess the potential safety of the mountain. What if we get lost? Where can we go? Vyhrin mountain can be tricky here. If you get lost and miss the correct path, you will have a long way to go down any of the slopes to the nearest road. And what about Musala? Here the access roads are much closer. The climbing road itself is longer, but the mountain is very close to Sofia, which means that it is easy to get to it. So, if you choose to climb Musala, the safety is higher, the road is easier, and to visit the highest point is more honorable. Choosing Musala. If you originally came to Bulgaria to a ski resort, then getting to Musala is extremely easy. In any case, from Bansko, Pamporovo and even more Borovets. And if you are visiting the Bulgarian sea resort, don't be put off by the distance. If you go by the public transport, see how buses and trains run. The bus service is very developed, but the specific timetable should be studied on the spot. In the longest way, you will get through Plovdiv to Sofia or directly to Sofia and from there to Borovets. A day on the way there, a day on the spot and day back. The most carefree way is by car to Plovdiv and from there to Borovets. In both options, you can explore Plovdiv on the way. We recommend not to miss it. Anyway, it is almost impossible to get and go up and down in one day. And Plovdiv has a lot to offer, both Old Street and the Roman Theatre. This Roman Theatre is unique. It has a well-preserved back wall, skinny. Here, the sound bounces off it back into the hall, and you can hear almost real antique acoustics. Well, there is also a famous monument to a Soviet soldier on the mountain. From the monument you can admire the panorama of the city and the Rhodope mountains. So, when traveling from seaside resort, we recommended that you calmly spend a day on the road and spend the night already off the foot of the mountain. It is possible to stay in Samokov, a town nearby, or in Borovets itself. We did just that. Despite the fact that the resort mainly targets winter tourists, it also offers quite a lot of entertainment in summer: mountain biking, hiking, horseback riding. Therefore, there are a lot of people here in the summer. It is also a spa town with mineral water springs. This resort is located only 70 kilometers from Sofia, and this provides an opportunity for Bulgarians, residents of Sofia, Plovdiv, to come here literally for the weekend. For example, today is Saturday and Borovets is full of people. It seems that everything is ready and you can go up to the mountain. However, the mountains do not forgive foolish haste and arrogance. Before the ascent, no matter how easy it is, you have to think over the road and prepare yourself. Moreover, we are walking without tents. It means we make our ascent and descent over the daylight hours, and for this, the most important thing is to know the mountain well. So we need to do some walk with our map before we enjoy ourselves with some gorgeous views. The area of Musala Peak is well traveled with many roads. Consider the main ones, they can also be descent routes. We go along the southern spur from the Hykingbulgaria shelter, then we get to the pass and walk further along the ridge to the saddle under Musala and to the mountain itself. However, you must get to the shelter first somehow. A similar road to the east of the road along the Bistritzer River. We go up further along the river, then move to the pass south of Musala, and we walk up along the same southern slope, but the elevation will be about 1,100 meters. The shortest road is to go from the road towards the Byli-nebyli reservoir to the pass and along the southern slope of Musala. The extent here is the largest, but there is a protected area of the water reservoir, and you shouldn't walk here. You might want to go along the northern spur through the Yastrебet zone. This road is pretty long and takes 5 to 6 hours in one direction only. If you climb directly from Borovets on foot, the distance will be about 10 kilometers and the elevation is 1600 meters. Keep in mind that the average speed in the mountains is much lower than in the plains, 2-3 kilometers per hour at the most. To save you time, you can use the Yastrebet ski lift and start right from there. The road from the ski lift is the most popular and well-trodden one and takes about 3 to 4 hours to reach the summit. Let's explore this way. And what about safety? Usually, if you get lost, it's advised not to go anywhere and wait for rescues. But this if you have notified the rescue service in advance where you are going and they know where to start looking for you. In our case, the mountain is considered safe. You will not come across a cordon where you can sign up. Therefore, make sure you have the phone number of rescue service. I also include it here in the description of the video. But we selected such mountain so that in case of emergency, you could be saved on your own, even if you were lost. Pay attention to our road. From the top of Musala, it goes all the way down to the Hija Everest or Ledenoto Lake Shelter. The way is skewed flat for about 5 kilometers. If we go and suddenly we start climbing up, then either we are on the path to the south of Musala or to the east. Here you should carefully look at your feet. If we are to the south, the slope will be relatively steep. In this case, you can just go downwards. It's quite easy to define down, even in the dark or foggy conditions. You can go towards the direction of flowing water. In this case, if we turn to the left from the path to the east, then in 3 or 4 hours we would come out to the road near the Maritsa River. There is a path from the path to the right, to the west. You can go down to the road to the Byli-nebyli reservoir in just an hour or two, but this is a protected area. This option should be used only in the most urgent case. It would be far more dangerous if we were on the saddle of the east of Musala, between it and the peak of Mount Musala. In this case, it is dangerous to go down. The slopes are steep. We would then still try to return to Musala. But if you don't want to go back, then we would be careful and not rushing straight down. Then you can go either south to the Maritsa River or into the hollow north to the Everest Shelter, that is, to the main trail. Before leaving, be sure to take the map and some navigation. If navigation is on mobile device, then provide additional batteries. Always try to calculate the time needed to cover your chosen road, considering that you are going to do both forward and return trip in one day during the daylight hours only. In our case, the road total time is 6 hours. Potentially, we have enough time for everything. Behind my back is the station for the gondola lift, which we need to ride up to the Yastrebet ski area. Please note that the gondola lift is the exact one that is needed for this task. There are several lifts in Borovets. The rest are chair lifts. This one is a gondola. It costs about 12 Bulgarian levs, that is about 6 euro. The lift starts working at 8:30 am. However, please note that it's better to come here in advance since there might be a quiet here. The last lift from the top point goes at 6 p.m. We must have time to go down before that. A lift ride in itself already gives you the opportunity to enjoy the beautiful views. These sites were operated by the family Bulgarian kings. Under the ski lift is the Tsarskaya Bistritzer Palace, the hunting residence of Bulgarian monarchs. The palace complex was built in the period from 1898 to 1914 in Bulgarian national revival style. In general, the residence is very well preserved, and it keeps not just the usual gift of foreign princes, but also some evidence of their quirks and entertainment. In general, you can even consider this lift ride as a separate attraction. Smiling tourists in the neighbor cabins, breathtaking highs and diving sensation when the gondola files slightly, passing through another suspension. But the main thing is the wonderful views and panoramas when open up during the ascent. The only pity is that the windows are somewhat rubbed by many tourists and their cameras. We are at the top station of the gondola lift, which takes skiers from the Yastrebet ski area. Below you can see almost the entire ski area with its tracks. And over there is the peak of Musala, the head of the real mountains. This mountain is considered the coldest place in Bulgaria. The top of the mountain is covered with snow for about 254 days in year. In winter, there are several drag and chair lifts in this valley. So many tourists cannot be ignored by the service sector. Here, at the top of the gondola, there is even a cafe and other benefits of civilization. We will have an excellent view of both the summit and the way to it. First, we will go to the Pyrion Mountains shelter, then to the first high cliff, then to the second, with a climb up to the glacial cirque to the Everest Shelter, and then along the right to the top point. From here, we could see that there are clouds off the top. Be sure to keep in mind that the weather is very changeable in the mountains. It can change dramatically in few minutes. It also changes with high. Take this into account when choosing clothes. It is believed that, on average, the temperature with high drops by half a degree for every 100 meters. And at the same time, do not forget your sunscreen so your skin doesn't get burnt in the bright sun. After a short distance after the lift, there will be first split in our road. It is better to go to the left. It is straighter and easier. The right one goes along the sky lift, and after it still goes down to the left. The track is marked with red color. Therefore, if in doubt about the way, look for red marks on white background, or just red stripes, red arrows, and you will be the right direction. In the first section, almost to Pyrion Mountains shelter, the trail goes down. It will go up only a kilometer before the shelter. The path in this place is flat and wide. There are no large stones, the road coating is dense. It's easy and pleasant to walk. The Bistritzer River flows along the bottom of the valley. This exact river gave the name to the royal residence. From here, it flows in the Chorny Iskar River. A little lower, the slopes of the mountain range are covered with coniferous forest, but here, in this valley, the climate becomes more severe and large trees give way to mountain pines or dwarf pines. In winter, these slopes are full of skiers, but now it's empty, only dwarf pine and grey stones, a stark contrast to the crowded trail. Looking up, we see that the weather is getting darker, but the weather in mountains are changeable. We hope we are lucky to continue our journey. In front of the Musa Shelter, the path splits into two. The marked walking path goes to the right. We go to the right. We need the path with marks. It will definitely lead us to the goal. Now we go to the Pyrion Mountains Shelter. It is located at the altitude of about 2,380 meters, about half the distance to the top. Here the easiest part of the road ends, and the real ascent to the mountains begins. Almost the entire elevation will be passed from this point, about 550 meters. The shelter is closed from all sides by mountains. There is little wind, which makes the place quite cozy. Nearby there is a glacial lake serving as the source of the Bistritzer River. Many people settle down off the shore to relax and have a snack. You can also have a snack at the shelter. Hot coffee, tea, simple snack and sandwiches are served here. There is even some hot food. If it's necessary, you can spend the night here. Speaking of conveniences, here at the shelter you can use an equipped toilet. After the Musala shelter, the path narrows sharply and becomes rocky. The first section will be quite steep, however here the trail splits into two ways. Both trails are marked, which means they will merge together again later. The right one is flatter and longer, and the left one is steeper but shorter. In any case, the trail is serpentine and not too difficult. At this point, you should be very attentive to yourself. Listen if you have symptoms of altitude sickness such as dizziness, shortness of breath, or generally feeling unwell. At these altitudes, 2,500 to 3,000 meters, altitude sickness can develop with a rapid climb. You need to be gentle to yourself, have some rest more often. Above the Musala shelter, nature is changed a lot. You can never see some blueberries, and you can eat them. However, you shouldn't follow my example. On the contrary, try not to touch anything or harm anything. The mountain is located on the territory of the reservation. The next section after the head wall is gentle and light, but we ended up almost in a cloud. On the one hand, touching the cloud with your hand and even walking through it sounds funny. On the other hand, it gets very damp and cold here. If the cloud is sitting on the top, you can see nothing. You might even feel as if the whole point of our efforts to climb to the top is lost. Often a cloud sits on the top and never leaves it. However, there was still hope that everything would be okay. As the day progresses, the earth and rock are warmed up by the sun, and then the warm air from them rises the clouds up the slope. The section of the path to the Everest Shelter alternates between gentle slope and steep ascent. Due to this alternation, it remains smooth. You will come across a swampy place along which brides are laid. You will see all the glacial lakes and the rise between large rock debris. Here the dwarf pines gradually disappear. They remain in the lower valley. Let's stop, look around and enjoy. Higher along the way everything will be much more grey and harsh. But that too can be enjoyed. We went to the next shelter through a thick cloud. In general, the trail is well marked. Marks are frequent, and you often see some bright pointers. Nevertheless, both here and on any other trail, it is worth to be alert. It will be very helpful to note the landmarks in order to return without problems. When other trails mix up with your path, you should look around and remember the scene. It's even better to take a photo back, so that on the way back you will have no doubt about where you came from. We passed the Everest Shelter. This is the last shelter before the summit, where you can relax, sit, drink some tea, take a breath. And this is the last shelter in front of the summit, and the elevation is still about 200 or 300 meters. This is a reason to reconsider your decision and maybe stop the further ascent. Here you can put a mark in your booklet 100 tourist sites of Bulgaria or Conqueror of the 10 mountain leaders. So, if you have reached the Everest Shelter, it already counts as conquest of Mount Musala. Well, in general, it's beautiful here. Here is one of the glacial lakes, and if there are no clouds, it will be even more beautiful. We decided not to stop there and kept going. Hopefully we are lucky, and there will be no clouds at the top. There is almost no vegetation, there are small snowfields. As Wikipedia points out, the mountain is composed of Paleozoic granites cut by granite porphyry veins, which make everything grey and unfriendly under the cloud. The trail underfoot is full of clay in places. This can make you slippery in the rain. Be careful. In the rain it's better not to walk in the mountains. Then the road splits into two ways again, into summer and winter. The winter one climbs in the ridge of the mountain and goes along the cables fixed between the metal posts. It's easy to climb and very easy to navigate. We went up along the winter way. Only when you reach the ridge it gets very windy. The cables here are fit for purpose. And finally, here is the summit. We could be really cheerful about that if not this cloud sitting at the top. Even worse, it was raining. Instead of admiring the beauty that was not visible, all the visitors huddled in a shelter at the meteorological station. In good weather, there are few people in the lounge, but now it's packed so tightly that you cannot move your elbows apart. It's raining, what are you talking about? Usually you can sit here and have a snack with your own supplies. However, this time everyone was just resting and waiting for something. It's here where you can put the stamp of the conqueror of the summit. There are even two of them, one for Pyrion Mountains, the other for the Musala mountain. Usually they are put in the special travel booklets and we will put them on the map. We have no travel booklets. Now all we need to do is get it back home dry and safe. We didn't know how long to wait for the rain to end. Indeed, a cloud can sit on the summit for hours, days, and maybe even months. Many people did not wait and climbed down. We were still lucky. The rain became less heavy, and even there were breaks in the clouds. You know, I would say that you might be more fortunate, and there will be no clouds at all. Then you can fully enjoy the view from the highest point. Then you will see a completely boundless sky above you, and the whole world will be under your feet. Musala Peak is not only the highest mountain in Bulgaria, it's also the highest peak in all the Balkans. The real mountains themselves are the largest watershed of the Aegean and Black Seas in Bulgaria. They like to say that in good weather you can see the Aegean Sea from here. But no, there is only myths. The mountains to the south obscure the view, and the curvature of the planet gets in the way. However, with good visibility, you can see the Virhan Peak on the south. It's believed that the name of the mountain is derived from the Arabic Musala, which means place for prayer, close to Allah, and was given to the mountain during the rule of the Ottoman Empire. Those who call it the mountain that way can be understood. Here at the top, it's quite logical to think about the spiritual matters. Or you can just take in what you will never see down in the bottom there. There is only one bad thing in the mountains. No matter how much you enjoy, you still have to return. When descending, the most important thing is not to be mistaken with the direction. It is necessary to mark landmarks for the return descent when reaching the top. Here it is very mark of the summit and the building of the meteorological station. Don't confuse it with the environmental observatory. It's slightly lower of the southern slope, and there is no need to go there to the south. If you find yourself near it, you need to return higher to the meteorological station and walk between it and the steel of the summit. Then follow the trail makers, but this time in the opposite direction. The simplest landmark, the right path goes down a sharp ridge and is marked with poles and ropes. It's important not to take it too far to the left, to the northern spur of Musala. On the way back, the views are even more exciting. You pay attention to what you were back to when you climbed up. However, don't forget the safety rules. Moreover, mountains are often deceiving. The mountains look different from every point. Just go behind the slope quite a bit, and you will no longer recognize the familiar landmarks. It's the same with sounds. Even in calm weather, you can go behind a stone and find that the winds blow your voice there, and you will no longer be able to shout to your companions. Therefore, it is so important not to separate, not to lose sight of your group mates and the path, even if it seems to you that it's extremely safe. According to one of the versions, the name Rila, which the Rila Massif bears, comes from Vol's full flowing peak. And here you can clearly see why this is so. There is a large number of glacial lakes here, and there is also a special area called the Seven Rila Lakes to the northwest from here. This is a group glacial lakes located at the altitude of 2,100 meters above sea level. The place is beautiful, and they are considered the most visited lakes in Bulgaria. Nearby there is the Rila Monastery, the largest Orthodox monastery in Bulgaria. It has more than 1,000 years of history and is included in the UNESCO World Heritage List. The complex acquired its special architectural appearance at the turn of the 18th and 19th centuries. Then it was rebuilt after a big fire. Also here it's very picturesque. On the way you will see many stone pyramids, cairns. Now they no longer have an establishing meaning. Climbers use them as path makers. They put capsules in them, which notes of the passage of the road. According to such notes, rescuers can find them in case of need. Nowadays, more and more often, they are built by ordinary tourists for good luck or as a sign, "I've been here." Much better than stretching the full height of the rock. "John Doe and Mary Sue was here." And then there is the old European pilgrimage tradition to take a bag of stones with you on your way, like a bag of your sins. On the way, the pilgrim leaves one stone at a time in certain place, and so get rid of heavily burden. It's very easy for such person to go back, since no longer pull. The way down is considered to be more difficult. Here it will only concern the face of glacial circus, but even there the path will be simple. Despite the fact that on the way down, it seems like there is no sense of fear, still be vigilant. It's important not to injure your feet on slippery slopes, do not soak your feet in swampy areas. Most importantly, enjoy the views along the way. The benefits of a day's distance and the light hike on the way back are most apparent. You are not so tired and ready to go yet, and you are already enjoying these views completely freely without thinking what a difficult path you still have to go. You rejoice the dwarf pines and the pine forest below. The short gradual ascent toward the lift might take some efforts, but it's not that challenging really. It's now 5 p.m. and we have already returned back to the gondola. There were some people with weak lungs, low physical fitness, and we walked the path in 7 hours. The average healthy urban person should cover this way an hour and a half faster. The only people whom we would not recommend this road and this mountain are people with significant heart failure. Among the tourists we met, many people were generally in light clothes, some people were with walking sticks and seemed quite old, and they still could do it too. Now it's time to go home, but before that you can still admire the surrounding views. The town of Samokov is fully visible from here. Mount Vitusha is visible. You can look back at the path traveled and see that the weather is still changeable. The sun is here and the clouds are sweeping over the top. Finally, it's time to take the final photos. There are no more quays in the downwards direction for the gondola. Tourists pass through it easier and quicker. However, you can see that someone has just arrived. Of course, a purely walking road is also possible here, to climb, admire, but simply go down to Borovets on foot. But if you do this, be sure to keep an eye on the daylight hours. Try not to let the darkness catch you in the mountains. On the descent, the lift even more resembles an attraction, even more spectacular than a Ferris wheel or roller coaster. A very high height under your feet. In total, we came to the Gondola quay at 9:30 am. We arrived at the top of the gondola at 10:30 am. We finished the road at 5:30 pm and were at the bottom of the gondola at 6 pm. So we managed to return by car to the resort to the Seber the same day. Of course, in terms of big records, such a trip is just a walk, but still it is beautiful. In one day, without complicated preparation, to visit real mountains and climb the highest mountain in the country. During the descent, the stamp on the map was slightly stained, and then it faded a little, but you can still see it. The same goes with our memories of what we saw and what we achieved. The memories fade a bit, but will now disappear. That's all for now, and see you at new heights!